Good morning, Ohio State fans. Welcome back to the 11 Dubcast for Friday, November 7th. We are on the eve of the always anticipated return to West Lafayette for Ohio State versus Purdue, as Ohio State looks to stay undefeated and Purdue looks to snap a losing streak by covering or at least trying to overcome what's close to a 30-point spread. And to help break down what's hopefully not going to be a very competitive matchup if it goes the way that we think it's going to go, I'm joined by the fan favorite at 11 Warriors, the highly respected, highly beloved Ramzy Nasrallah. Ramzy, how has your week been? Thank you for joining us again.
I'm pretty good. I do have I think the medical term is Heebie Jeebies because there's a trip to West Lafayette, a stadium I've been to, and I've seen some things there. But I'm not quite as concerned this year. Do you know who Purdue beat the last time they won a Big Ten game?
If it didn't happen this year, then I can't say that I do, because I know they're on like a 5 or 6 game losing streak at this point.
They haven't won a Big Ten game this year. They did not win one last year.
Oh, wow.
The last time they beat a Big Ten program, it's the current number 2 CFP Indiana Hoosiers. That's their most recent one.
Wow.
They
So
put
that would've
Tom
been
Allen out of business, and
Oh.
they haven't done anything since.
That makes a lot of sense then, yeah, because that's usually the last game of their season, so that would be the end of 2023. Wow.
Yeah.
Was Jeff Brom still there at that point?
No, that was still Ryan. It was still Tom. But both programs have turned over coaches. IU has figured it out pretty quickly with Sig, and Purdue is, well, we're going to talk about that. It's Mad Libs that don't really make any sense, but I'm not sure what they could do with. They have 60 players that they got out of the portal. Like, how do you talk about the brotherhood? Like, hey, this guy you don't know, you're fighting for him too.
Yeah.
Your brother.
It's the Max Clare revenge game, so I'm sure that he's more excited for it than anybody. But yeah, I'm glad you're here today as the one of the most prominent Ohio State historians, frankly. I think that you'll be able to appropriately break down why some fans may have an irrational fear of what's to take place tomorrow. But before we get into that, we do want to give a quick shout out to our sponsor at the 11 Dubcast and 11 Warriors this Ohio State football season. That would be First Bank of Central Ohio. From game day to work day, First Bank of Central Ohio is proud to support the business owners that keep Central Ohio thriving. They're locally owned, business focused, and always in your corner. Give them a visit at fbcentralohio.com. And Ramzy, as you were alluding to, it's perfectly understandable if you're an Ohio State fan to be a little bit terrified of any road trip to West Lafayette. Granted, most of those are expected to be nighttime kickoffs in the case where you're afraid. This is the very rare, as Dan has referred it to me, the rare NFL kickoff for a college football game, or at least for Ohio State, where you're not getting the big noon, you're getting the 1 p.m. kickoff at West Lafayette. So at least it's in the daytime. It won't be a nighttime ambush in the cornfields of Indiana or the farmland of Indiana, whatever they're growing out there next door to Ohio State. That being said, it's still something that many fans have an irrational fear of, and you've already communicated as much that you've got the heebie-jeebies. So I'm curious where your heebie-jeebies lie in the full context of these two teams playing each other relative to the actual matchup we have in front of us, in which Ohio State, as I said earlier, is favored by 30 points.
Yeah. Well, it's the first week in November. I know they play Penn State on November 1st. That's October 32nd. It was still Halloween mode.
Halloween hangover day.
Yeah, right. So we're into November. It gets a little creepy. West Lafayette is gray 362 days of the year. I don't expect Saturday to be any different. And they're tricky because they have a bunch of portal, like they have 2 receivers who were on Georgia's roster last year, including Nitro Tuggle, who I only remember because during recruiting, his name is Nitro Tuggle.
How could you forget that name?
How do you don't? That's awesome. So they have a bunch of guys who were supposed to be better, who go to Purdue for the reason. This is sort of the subtext of parity in the transfer portal era. Barry Odom goes there from UNLV. He didn't bring like when Sig went to IU from James Madison, he brought like all of his best players. He had like not a starting lineup, but he had more than 11 guys who just plugged in, and they're still there. I think Barry Odom got like 6 or 7 of his UNLV guys, the guys that helped him get shopped around, like he was looked at as a candidate for a Power Four program, but like the other 52 are from somewhere else. They've got directional schools, they got Georgia, and the thing is, like, that's just a collection of parts in year one. Like this is a full flush of what they had. The best defensive player Purdue had last year now plays for Oregon. He had the game-ending interception in Happy Valley when the Ducks were there. The best offensive player is Devin Mockabee. You won't be seeing him this weekend because he's hurt. Their best offensive player last year was Mockabee and Max Clare. Max Clare, whom Lathan Ransom we came out coming off the field last year, telling coaches like, "Hey, if this guy ends up in the portal, you should get him." Like he was saying that during the Purdue game last year. So what you have left are a bunch of guys who they're playing for themselves, and that generally doesn't work when you're up against a culture like Ohio State's, which has both talent and camaraderie. Like they do both really well. On top of that, not having Mockabee, I think Mockabee has like a fifth of their yards on the season. It should not go well for Purdue.
Well, the interesting thing about that is that even though they're in the midst of what I believe is a 5 or 6 game losing streak, arguably their best performance during that streak came last week when they went to Ann Arbor and they covered the spread, at least, even though they didn't quite get the win. I always hate saying cover the spread when it's the losing team. Just like they won against the spread. They didn't really cover. I feel like covering should be reserved for the favorite when they actually win by what they're handicapped to win by. That being said, they did not get beaten by as much as people anticipated they would be beaten by. Granted, Michigan was missing Justice Haynes, who now it is up in the air whether or not he's even going to be available for the Ohio State game. I think most people would agree he's been their best offensive player this year, in spite of the fact that some people have told us that Bryce Underwood, rather, is the greatest college football freshman that we've ever seen, and there's never been anyone like him. Justice Haynes has probably been their most consistent, best overall offensive player, and they ran him nearly 30 times against Michigan State, and that probably re-aggravated his injury, and now we might not see him again in the regular season.
Did we just go right into Michigan, like during a Purdue week? It's so disrespectful.
We had to. Well, I mean, it's relevant given the fact that, again, they played above expectations last week.
Yeah.
And
it was a 4-quarter game.
Yeah. And they only lost by 5 points in a tough environment away from West Lafayette. They come home this week. You wonder if they're due for an encore performance or if they're at least performing above expectation now relative to where they maybe were earlier in their losing streak when they were doing things like giving up 43 points to Illinois. So,
yeah. Well, Illinois has a quarterback that can throw and hit targets, and Ohio State has one too, and Michigan does not.
I suppose not. So, given all of that context, you are not concerned about the fact that arguably Purdue has looked their best as recently as last week while they've been in this downward spiral.
I'll give you a couple of I use some bad science to judge teams. When a team is ranked in a statistical category a number higher than my high school graduating year, I think that they're probably really bad. So Purdue's total offense is ranked 92nd. That's higher than my graduating high school year. That means they're bad. Their defense is ranked, let me think of, right, also 92nd. So 0 for 2. I'm sure their special teams are better than Ohio State's because everyone's are. That's not enough to win.
It's a fair assessment. I mean, the reason I feel pretty good this week is because if you look at some of the metric stats, mostly those based off of estimated points added or per play, Ohio State's number one in terms of passing offense in the country, which makes sense given the fact that they've been stepping it up with Say in the last couple of games. Purdue, I don't know where this lines up relative to your high school graduation date, but Purdue is ranked 116th in the country in that category defensively. So
I graduated before 116th. Yes.
Well, there you go. So if I would hope so. So if you
I barely graduated.
Yeah. If you are going off of that, if they merely do what they've been doing the last 2 weeks in terms of aggressiveness, it stands to reason that they not only win, but they probably cover by 30 points. The other key. The other thing that I think is key here is that where they've had the most success, and you alluded to it with the running back that's going to be absent, is their rushing offense has been much more effective than their passing offense. That being said, but when I say more effective, I mean 43rd in EPA per rush compared to 98th in EPA per pass in the country. And now they're missing their best offensive player, most effective offensive player. That's not even taking into account the fact that this is a historically brilliant Ohio State defense that they're facing. So, all that taken into consideration, it should be a lot of points for Ohio State to a little bit of points for Purdue, or maybe even less than that in some of our estimation. And I'll throw it to you on that, because when we get to scoring predictions here, I'm a little bit more conservative than you are this week. I know you can go a little bit hog wild with yours sometimes. Sometimes you are a very sound mind and judgment. Other times you pick a score that I would like to see, but I don't necessarily know if it's going to manifest. I don't want to spoil it too bad, but why don't you tell the listeners what your estimation is for this week? And I'm sure that there's going to be plenty of people that are eager to hear it and see it if it does come to pass.
This is one of those where I should have looked at it. It gets published on the site on Saturday, so
That's right.
it's either
Well, I was gonna
56
plug
or
that before I said mine.
yeah, it's 56 or 52. I can't remember to nothing. And my
56.
process, it's a very highly refined process where I imagine how the game's going to go, and I look at things like uh, Purdue has given up more 40-yard plays than 130 FBS programs. So I think about also what Ohio State's been doing the last few weeks with the downfield passing. They're bad at running rush defense. So I think about breaking open plays and scoring faster probably than Ryan Day wants to, which is how you end up with what is that, 7 or 8 scores. And I think about how inept Purdue's offense is and how salty Ohio State's defense is about allowing 14 points, 2 touchdowns in a single game, including one that short field at the end of the first half against Penn State. And I think, you know what, there's some Heisman vanity at play. There's basic competence at play. There's tendencies at play. And it just felt like an 8 touchdown afternoon. Now, working against Ohio State, and I thought of this while you were talking, when Hope talked about, when Don Hope talked about the 1 p.m. kickoff, what is 1 p.m. in military time?
1,300 hours. Is that right?
13. What's the most unlucky number?
Oh, yeah.
And what's the most cursed plot of land outside of Kabul, Afghanistan? It's West Lafayette, Indiana.
Oh,
So
I was gonna say Ann Arbor, Michigan, but
my worst take is that I think Ann Arbor's lovely. I just hate their football team. West Lafayette is objectively terrible.
it's not great. I'll be honest. I don't. As someone that used to live in Chicago, I don't think it's even the worst part of Indiana. That would be Gary, Indiana, which my understanding that city has the lowest happiness index in the country. The highest happiness index is in Hawaii.
You are ripping on the region, which is that part of Indiana where they say they're from Chicago.
North, right? East. They call it East Chicago, even though it's in a totally
it's the region,
different state.
and the people from there are region rats. They're proud of it.
No, they are not East
I think
Chicago. They are Northwest Indiana.
the region has charm. West Lafayette is that's like a Stephen King. It's like Castle Rock, but without the topography and the interesting eerie backstory. It's just gross.
As somebody that is regularly driven from between Chicago to Columbus throughout my life, I know that the nearest Chipotle from campus in West Lafayette is about 20-minute drive, and that's simply unacceptable.
Oh, it's a horrible place to drive into. So have you been to a game there, George?
I have not. I don't plan to either.
So
You're not
I was
selling me on it. I have to.
No. I can tell you, I went. So this is actually a pretty good story for the pod. In 2000, Ohio State played there, and it was a 3:30 kick. And IU played Penn State and Indy at 8. So I lived in Chicago at the time, drove down to West Lafayette and did 2 college football games in one day, which was something we talked about it for like a year. But it was the game where Ohio State went up by like this. Steve Bellisari came towards me for the go-ahead touchdown. It's like a minute left, and so I'm behind Drew Brees, going because we're sitting in the end zone. And from that vantage point, I can see that instead of playing prevent, I think his name is Evan Morales, something Morales. Mike Doss just let him go right past him. He must have thought he had safety help, except for that Mike Doss was the safety, so he was the help. And Drew Brees just threw it over his head, game over, and I got to watch Purdue fans rush the field for beating a mediocre like 8-4 Ohio State team where John Cooper actually that was 3 games from his final one. So I saw that the next time they visited was 2002. The final score was 13-9. They made a documentary about it.
Yeah.
It's always creepy there. I hate it.
I can't. I can imagine. Yeah, I don't. On my list of places I want to go to watch Ohio State away. I've been to Illinois Stadium. I'm not sure what it is off the top of my head.
Memorial Stadium.
Been there Memorial Stadium. But that was when I was very young. And if you think the drive from Columbus to West Lafayette is bad, I would imagine the drive from Chicago to Champaign is similar, if not worse. Thankfully, I was about 4 or 5 years old, so I don't remember a lot of it, but I think I got to sleep on the way home, but I would have slept on the way there. I probably would have slept behind the wheel if I was driving. It was very bad. But I've been to Ann Arbor, the big house, and I've never seen Ohio State lose there. I think I've been there about 3 times, and I'm 3-0 in terms of going there. And I grew up in Chicago, so I've seen Ohio State play at Northwestern many times.
I've seen them lose to Northwestern. It's happened once, and I'm 51. And
I was at that game too, the 2004 game. Yep, I was at that one. But yeah, thankfully, yeah, I've seen Northwestern beat Ohio State more times in my life than I've seen Michigan beat Ohio State in person. Yeah, right. I'm very, very grateful.
I wish I could say that was the case with me, but I lived through the 90s and went to every game.
But yeah, I'd probably want to go to Happy Valley before that. Before West Lafayette. It's very low on the power rankings of Big Ten stadiums I would want to visit.
I've been to every one but Eugene, and that's it.
I'm not even counting the New Guard in this. I'm just regarding the Midwestern ones. And maybe we can lump Rutgers and Maryland in there too if we want, just because they're not a entire plane ride away the way the new West Coast affiliates are. That being said, so 56-0 for you. I think that's I would like to see it.
I got a defensive one in there too. So 7 offense, 1 defense.
That would be great. We haven't had a lot for as brilliant as this defense has been this year. I think they have the scoop and score against Grambling, and there haven't been a lot of defensive touchdowns. They've just been playing very sound, guard the sticks and force them to punt football.
Caden Curry should have had one last week.
Yeah. I would like to see a defensive score here. I think that would make a lot of people feel good. I'm being a little bit more conservative. I've had to do that this year just because I went very, very shallow for my Grambling State prediction, where I think I only said something like 49-0, or maybe I think I even budgeted Grambling State a touchdown, and I said 49-7, and obviously that ended up being 70-0. I've been playing catch up the whole year relative to the rest of the staff.
Still mad about that game.
Yeah, well, me too, because it was looking good at halftime.
I had 69-0. And Grambling blocked the 10th PAT, and it still went through. And I was like,
we were all rooting for you, man.
I know. I was too, but I hate that it happened. Sorry. Ohio State's having a good season when I'm mad about the Grambling game.
When you're mad about missing out on 69-0, and it's not like that was unrealistic. It's really what the
score should have been. You needed to get more of his finger on it.
Yeah. But I'm going 45-7. 45 would still be the highest point total Ohio State has had this season, outside of the Grambling State game. Yeah. So I think that 6 touchdowns makes sense, and then maybe they get tripped up or something on a drive early in the game and they settle for a field goal, which they've been settling for field goals earlier on in the game a lot more often than I think.
You don't see like a try hard Bryson Rogers or some back, like the last time they were at Purdue, Brandon Innes scored, and he was not a starter or even a rotational guy. They emptied the bench and he had a really long touchdown. That's part of the other poison I had, was just like imagining plays like that. I think that Day will try to get the players off the field, get saying a certain amount of yardage, a certain number of touchdowns, pull them, and then the guys who come in are going to be like, we're playing the transfer portal scrap heap. Let's get some stats.
Well, I could see that, but at the same time, and this has been a talking point that you've spoken about in your own pieces this year and something I've referred to on the show many times, is that they are speed running the regular season, so to
Oh
speak.
yeah.
And this is another game where they would like to do that. So they could be in a situation where they're up 28-0 at the half, and they still get 2 touchdowns to fulfill the 6 scores that I forecast in the second half. And you're you're still in a position where you've gotten the starters out of the game. Sands maybe thrown 4 touchdowns in the first half, and then the whole game is basically on a running clock. So I do think that's the way it's going to go. It's just a matter of trying to figure out how many points are they going to settle for, how much is enough, and is the defense going to make any mistakes. And the other thing that makes me feel good about the shallow point total for Purdue is that what happened at the end of the first half last week was really a freak occurrence, and you have to budget for those things to a certain extent. But Penn State realistically should have only had 7 points last week, so it's easy for me to say, let me budget Purdue a touchdown that they get some kind of garbage time play. Ohio threw for a touchdown on this defense earlier in the season, so it's not totally crazy for me to think that pretty much any team is capable of some kind of garbage time YOLO score.
Yeah, but Parker
And
Navarro would start for Purdue.
I don't know, man. He was pretty shaky against Miami of Ohio on Tuesday night action earlier this week up until
Yeah, he
he threw the
was. But
game-winning
that's because Ohio
touchdown
State
pass.
breaks teams and they're never the same again.
I suppose so. But in any event, Ohio's they're in the thick of it for the MAC title, and that would only improve Ohio State's resume.
Have you looked at the
I
MAC
would certainly
standings?
like to
We
see
talked
it.
about Michigan already. Let's just go right to MAC.
There's a 4-way tie for
Yeah,
first place.
man, like the middle class has been, the MAC is awesome this year. You love to see it.
Yeah, if you're struggling with the gap between Monday and Thursday night NFL football,
Tuesday, Wednesday.
I would highly recommend Tuesday and Wednesday night action if you need to scratch the
And you
itch.
can sneak peeks because Ohio State opens with Ball State, and then they have Texas, and then they get Kent State. They get double MACtion next September.
Unfortunately, if you're a YouTube TV customer, as I know many of us are, we're still waiting for that dispute to get resolved. Otherwise, you have to acquire Tuesday and Wednesday night action through alternative means, which is what I
Captain
did.
Jack Sparrow, your feed.
That's exactly right.
There's a surge in sports pirating, or a sports surge.
We would never encourage
recommend
that
that,
on
though.
this show.
No.
We will never don't
Just
ask
because
us how
Warriors
to
it's
do
free
that.
doesn't mean everything should be free. Everything should be free.
We'll always be free for you, though.
That's right.
We we're committed to free content, free quality content here, which is why Ramzy is the best Ohio State writer around.
I was about to remove myself from that guarantee, but
Hey, I think it is a guarantee. It's why so many people are always interested to hear what you have to say, Ramzy. And I'm sure many people are going to be interested in your score prediction, hoping that it does materialize 56-0. It'd certainly be better than mine.
or age horrendously. If you're watching this next Tuesday after Purdue wins, how silly am I?
Don't we just cleared out the Heebie Jeebies. We don't need to
13
invite them
o'clock,
back in.
West Lafayette.
It weird
Indian
as it
Burial
may,
Grounds. Something
weird as it
happened.
may be, the Steve I trust in Patricia. We trust. I don't think that this is going to be a repeat of 2018. We are a long way from that era of Ohio State football.
Alex Grinch.
Yeah, exactly.
Urban Meyer's best man. There were some dudes that shouldn't have been coaching.
Alex Grinch and
Matty P
Terry
is not one of
Coombs
them.
ain't walking through that door.
That's right.
Thankfully.
Rondell White out of eligibility.
Yeah, exactly. So I don't think that Julian Sands' Heisman campaign is going to be squandered the way that Dwayne Haskins' was. Put it that way. So I think we're in good shape. If you're curious how the rest of the staff score predictions shake out, they'll go out 3 hours before kickoff on Saturday. I'll be personally responsible for publishing them at 10 a.m. Saturday because I will be helping cover the game this weekend, and I look very much forward to doing that, hearing what Purdue's coach has to say in the aftermath of what will hopefully be another thorough thrashing for Ohio State. And looking forward to it. So thank you very much for tuning into the Dubcast. Ramzy, thank you so much for joining us as always. We will be back Monday morning with Chase Brown to recap the game, as well as any other crazy stuff that happens in week 11 of college football. Until then, thank you to our sponsor, First Bank of Central Ohio. And Ramzy, once again, we always appreciate your time here, and we hope to have you back soon, at least once or maybe 2 more times before
Thanks,
the regular
George.
season
Thanks,
wraps up.
listeners. Go Bucks.
All right. Take care, folks. We'll see you next week. Go Bucks.